Hello and welcome to Paul on Politics, our regular review of what's been happening in Kent and Medway. Now, if there's one thing that most politicians don't like, it's the prospect of having to make a U-turn over a key policy. If you were anywhere in the vicinity of Medway Council offices this week, you would have heard a squealing of brakes and crunching gears as the Conservative-run authority retreated on its plans to close 19 Sure Start centres. We were debating whether this was political capitulation in the face of people power and what it means for the relationship between voters and the people who represent them. And the week in politics wouldn't be the same if it didn't feature the B word. Yes, Brexit has cropped up again like a bad penny or euro. An alarming report suggested that Kent's roads could be in the grip of almost permanent Operation Stack when Brexit is implemented. With me on the panel today it's Jarrett, the leader of Medway Council, and Vince Maple, the opposition Labour Group leader. We'll also be joined by Professor Richard Skase of the University of Kent at Canterbury. Thanks to our guests for coming in. But first this evening, Josie Hannett looks at Medway Council's U-turn on children's centres.
Families across the Medway towns have avidly campaigned to stop the closure of Sure Start children's centres. Government funding cuts means Medway Council has to save £1.6 million. After a 6-week consultation period, they've made the decision to keep 4 children and family hubs. They'll be supported by 9 other wellbeing centres. After originally saying they'd like to keep 4 hubs, they're now keeping a further 9 centres open, which will run out of existing centres across Medway. 6 will still have to close though, and around 15 jobs will be put at risk.
We have to live within the budget available to us, but what we were really keen to do was to respond to what we heard from people in the consultation so that we continue to offer the broad range of services and support that families and particularly young parents have told us that they need. Obviously, many families have children of a range of ages, so by promoting services which have services for children under 5 with children of older ages who need other types of support, by bringing those together in one place, it means that families can access a range of services for all of their needs.
There's been plenty of opposition to the potential closures in the past, including from the Labour Party, who've been criticised for storming out of meetings and boycotting public events.
I think the Labour Party really should be ashamed of their approach with this. We wanted to listen to the public and purposely didn't attend the events because we wanted unbiased views of the public, and we'd listen to that. The Labour group have rallied what's been termed by the public, by other members of the public, a mob mentality, and you'll see the behaviour that took place at the full council a few weeks back, which I think, frankly, that behaviour was disgraceful and unhelpful to the service users and those good people that did contribute and that we wanted to listen to.
As well as the 13 centres, there will be outreach work in the community and in people's homes, targeting the most vulnerable families. The recommendation will be put forward to Cabinet next week, and if it's approved, we could see the new plans being put into place from as early as January next year. This is Josie Hannett in Medway for KMTV.
So, Jarrett, political capitulation in the face of people power. Why?
Well, it's a good line for a journalist, isn't it? Political capitulation. But of course, we set out on a consultation exercise. We mapped out some possible alternative ways in which we would deliver the service, and we consulted on it, and we've heard the results of the consultation, and we're forming policy based on that. So there was no set position, so therefore there was no U-turn. Well,
there was a set position because your original report talked about favouring one of 3 options, option C, which is the 19 closures.
That's right, which is what we consulted
on. Now,
your
your initial report, and I've got it somewhere here, said that 19 current centres that was fragmented, had a number of weaknesses. Why does keeping 13 not have that same problem?
Because we were better addressing the outcomes, and the problem with the service has been that when money was more plentiful, money was thrown by the Labour government at children's centres all across the country without measuring outcomes. What we've done is look at outcomes and come up with a package that will now deliver better services to the people that need them.
Did you not misjudge the public mood on this one fairly badly?
No, not at all, not at all. The public mood was exacerbated, of course, by the machinations of the Labour group. I think that was crystallised at the last council meeting, where we had some absolutely disgraceful behaviour from the public and from the Labour group as well, actually.
Well, let's get Vince in here, because you've obviously found the money tree in Medway Council's coffers or in the grounds. to keep these centres open?
Well, what we've seen over the last 48 hours from Alan Jarrett and all of his colleagues is nothing but spin, because of course the reality is nothing has changed. Nothing has changed from when they first talked about this at cabinet meetings, going they'd have a hub and spoke model. Councillor Andrew McNess, who I hope will be apologising to the people of Medway on Tuesday.
I think you might have a long wait for
that. I think calling professionals and parents a mob, I think that's quite disrespectful for the people we're here to serve. Look, but let's be really, really clear on this. Other councils across the country, like Labour-controlled Milton Keynes, have taken similar budget cuts, some tough decisions.
And County Council.
And KCC, but in the case of Milton Keynes, all of their centres remain open. They've taken the approach of speaking to people like Santander.
Are you saying Medway Council can just keep things as they are?
Well, I'm saying what they should have done, and my colleagues proposed this, and this was voted down by Conservatives just this week when they didn't have any information, let's be clear, was to actually look at places like Milton Keynes where they've approached the private sector to work with them in partnership.
Oh, you're advocating the involvement of the private sector. That's
I'm saying actually,
for a Labour position.
I'm saying when Alan Jarrett's Conservative government are cutting the funding to local government, you've got to work with whoever you can to keep providing those services. The alternative is cuts like we're still seeing, 30% less centres.
You said you originally needed to save £1.6 million. How much is this going to save? And if it's not 1.6 million, where's the shortfall coming from?
It's £1.6 million, Paul, and that's really important to configure a service that delivers what people want when they want it. So now we are proposing, and Cabinet still hasn't made a decision, of course, what we're proposing is a hub and spoke model with outreach, with 29 premises identified for provision of outreach. So it's a pretty comprehensive package, giving us the same financial envelope, delivering very good services, and we would have got there much quicker and happier without the hullabaloo that Vince and his pals created.
But is it the same universally available service on a geographic basis that currently exists? Or
that's what the outreach support is about. Yes, we've got four hubs, 9 satellites, and 29 sites providing outreach. So I think it's pretty good comprehensive cover for the money that's available. And Paul, and before Vince goes on, he talks about Milton Keynes as though it's the only game in town. Of course, there are councils all across the country that have created and are creating a similar model to the one that we're proposing.
The reason why you've had to do it is because your Conservative government's not giving councils enough money.
Well, yes, but then if we track back, the Labour government virtually bankrupted the country. They left a note, didn't they? Sorry, there's no money. So what do we do? If there's no money, there's no money.
I just want to give Vince the opportunity to reply to Andrew McNess's charge. You're a mob and adopted the mentality of the mob.
Well, I hope on Tuesday at Cabinet, where this is being debated, that Andrew apologises to the public, because actually that's who we are both here to represent. And in this case, I think it's been deeply offensive to the public who we are all here to represent. If it's professionals and parents who are angry at Alan Jarrett's council, they have the right to be angry. And why? Because they're having their services cut.
It does seem, Alan, that the voters, the parents, came up with an option you hadn't thought of before, and you're now saying that you'll adopt this particular model, which is what didn't feature anything in your original proposal.
Well, of course, Paul, that's the power of consultation, isn't it? We have consultation exercises.
Yes, but
we listened. No. We listened to them. We'd be criticised for not listening, wouldn't we? So we've listened. We've adapted our proposals, which aren't set in stone yet. We all know that because Vince said it himself, and Adam has said it on this. Adam Price has sent it on this channel that they're going to call it in. So they prejudged the outcome of the cabinet.
Well, there's nothing wrong with
already
putting it under the spotlight for scrutiny, is there? That's the job of councillors.
There's not. But one of the things that the Labour group criticised the Conservatives for is prejudging outcomes, and here they are a week before Cabinet debates the business case that's being put before it. Here they are prejudging the outcome and saying, well, we'll call it in. So what that amounts to is just creating more anxiety and more turmoil for the people that want to use this service, who want things to settle down, look after their
children. Have you got absolute confidence in Andrew McNess as your cabinet member, given the fairly hairy route this process took?
Andrew McNess has my full support. He's done exactly the job I set him up to do when I invited him into the cabinet. He's an extremely good member of my cabinet, and he's done some really good work.
This political kind of to and froing doesn't serve your image particularly well, does it? And I'm talking about the council's image, where you've got politicians slinging mud at one another.
Well, I suppose you could say that's correct. I think the acid test will be the services we are delivering and continue to deliver. So on the one side, we have the Conservatives delivering services. On the other side, we have the Labour group throwing rocks at us to no avail.
Oh, well, Vince,
Well,
you
no,
wanna
that's
come
simply
back on
not
that?
true. Of course, we wouldn't be calling this decision in if the council hadn't waited 24 hours to release the information that was published in a press release the following day.
So he's going to call it in.
So,
He's
well, no,
prejudging
we
the
have to,
decision.
because we
Well,
have had
calling it
no
doesn't
opportunity.
prejudge it, does it? Just
We've
means
had,
you're
Of course
calling
it
it
does.
out.
we've had no opportunity to discuss 13 centres. Not one opportunity. When's that opportunity been there, Alan? The answer is it hasn't been. Because the council held the information back, including from their own Conservative councillors. That's no way to run a council.
Alan, what have you done to lobby government to outline this situation and say, hold on a minute, give us some more money, we need more money?
Well, of course we do that through our three Conservative MPs, three excellent MPs who were re-elected only a few weeks ago through local government association.
You haven't
and
had much success though, have you?
And of course through our own lobbying. Councillor McNess, Councillor Potter were both up at the Department for Education only this week talking to them about issues.
What's happened as a result of all that?
Well, there is only so much money to go around, isn't there? That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. I said to you earlier, we all know who spent all the money. They left a note boasting about it. So, that's the situation we're in.
Just quickly, I mean, all this stuff about hubs, spokes, satellites, pods, very confusing the public, isn't it?
Well, it won't confuse them because there'll be absolute clarity about the service that's being delivered. And the key thing is we'll be delivering the service to the people that need it, where they need it, and that's the important thing.
Right, well, I'm sure we'll come back to this issue, but coming up after the break, we'll be looking at whether Kent will be gripped by chronic traffic congestion and long delays because of Brexit. Don't go away.
Operation Stack has plagued Kent in the past, and there's now a warning it could be permanent when we leave the European Union. That's because of new custom checks that could have to be introduced. According to a new research paper, the county's ports and roads could be hit by chronic delays and traffic congestion after Brexit, and the total cost of the move could be £1 billion a year. MEP for the South East, Richard Ashworth, says it's a damning
Welcome back to Paul on Politics, and hello to third guest, Professor Richard Skays, who has joined us on the sofa. Now, a report out this week painted a fairly bleak scenario of what could happen in Kent in 2019 after Brexit. Let's find out why with Louisa Britton.
Operation Stack has plagued Kent in the past, and there's now a warning it could be permanent when we leave the European Union. That's because of new custom checks that could have to be introduced. According to a new research paper, the county's ports and roads could be hit by chronic delays and traffic congestion after Brexit, and the total cost of the move could be £1 billion a year. MEP for the South East, Richard Ashworth, says it's a damning report.
There is simply not the space in the Port of Dover to hold that sort of activity. Remembering that something like 10,000 lorries a day pass through Kent, the logistics of dealing with that is going to be pretty substantial. But secondly, also the facilities, the staffing, the facilities to accommodate the number of staff which are going to have to be put in place to deal with this issue is going to be very substantial.
Consultancy group Oxera says its findings are based on the length of time it currently takes to carry out checks on non-EU HGVs entering the UK. At the moment, they take 45 minutes to inspect. As it stands, those checks aren't needed for EU vehicles, but that won't be the case from as early as March 2019. It's likely they'll need the lengthy inspections as well. So more inspections means more delays, which means more of Operation Stack. And plans for that aren't exactly going smoothly either. Proposals for a huge lorry park off the M20 near Folkestone are currently in limbo because of a legal dispute which is due to be heard in December. Stack has caused massive disruption in the county in recent years, and the thought of it being regular isn't something residents or businesses in Kent will want to see on a regular basis. So with the decision for a lorry park which will ease the pressure on freight traffic up in the air, and this bleak report, Kent could be in gridlock in a post-Brexit Britain. Louisa Britton, KMTV.
Well, Richard, is this a bit of shroud waving by the Remoaners camp, or is there really a valid issue about these customs checks clogging up Kent's roads?
It's definitely, I think, a valid anxiety. If we look beyond 2019, with the introduction of customs controls, checking of lorries, we've got a foretaste here of what it's going to be like. I can see Operation Stack almost a permanent feature of the M20 in 2 or 3 years' time. And
really? I mean, you don't think the politicians will grasp the nettle when...
Well, if they grasp the nettle, I mean, in the sense that how much infrastructure can be introduced in the next 2 years? I mean, the proposal for the lorry park outside Folkestone is now subject to appeal. That appeal is not being heard until December. So we're getting pretty close to 2019. And already, as we see this weekend, huge queues. It's almost a rehearsal for what life is going to be like after Brexit. And also, in terms of not just Operation Stack, there's a whole set of all the other facilities, the knock-on effects of Operation Stack. Delivery trucks, local businesses are trying to get from one part of Kent to another. It has a huge downward impact upon Kent and Medway simply because of the lack of infrastructure and how that's going to get worse with and after post-Brexit.
So, I mean, you could introduce some kind of electronic customs checks, couldn't you, which would speed up the process?
Well, could you? I mean, in terms of these huge transporters, you know, with bulk goods of one sort or another, with the fear, of course, in terms of security, with the fear, of course, and the anxieties about terrorism, how can you do this without a manual search and check? And at the moment, it takes 45 minutes per lorry. And only lorries outside the EU, originating from outside the EU, are subject to that kind of check. When we come out of the EU, unless we have a soft Brexit, which I think we will have basically, it won't be a Brexit except in name, as a token, if you like, response to the popular will. But if you did a 45-minute check on every truck going down the M20, travel on the M20 tonight and see how it's going to be. It's going to cause huge delays on both sides of the channel.
Let's bring in Alan here. I mean, everyone knows Kent and Medway have got major traffic issues and infrastructure shortfalls. This is going to be a major issue, isn't it, in 2019 if something's not done?
Well, if these fears come to pass, yes. I think we're in such early stages of the Brexit negotiations. I think we'll have to wait and see. Valid anxiety, Richard said. Well, it is valid anxiety, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens, won't we? We've got to remember that the European Union has a powerful incentive to come to an equitable deal with the UK because, after all, they export more to us than we do to them.
That's completely true, but in this particular situation you've got 27 member states, and is it going to be the case we have to negotiate agreements with each of them over customs?
Well, time